Hello everyone. This is the yet unnamed Historic Brawl podcast with myself, TitanLord, and my friend over here, Myriad. Say hi, Myriad.
Hello.
We seek to just kind of talk about Historic Brawl as a format, as well as anything related to it within the Magic realm. Sometimes we'd be outside of Historic Brawl if we really feel like it, but it's really just a place where we could sit here and talk and chat about whatever's been going on in the competitive scene for Historic Brawl, which is going to be our primary focus.
Well, it didn't start with Historic Brawl. A few steps to get there. So, first of all, there's the journey to Magic Arena. There's the journey to Magic itself. Yeah, what was your background with Magic in general?
I had a friend that got me into it back in... I think I discovered Magic in 2017. I did not play Magic until 2019 when War of the Spark came out. In the big event with like Nicol Bolas taking over Ravnica and all that stuff, and Planeswalker Sparks. That's what got me into it. And I thought it was cool, and I thought Planeswalkers were cool as a card, as these, like, they were the first kind of card type my friends and I ever gravitated towards. We didn't understand how Proliferate worked, so instead of adding one counter, we always doubled it, and it made Planeswalkers really broken in our meta. So...
Yep. I've seen that at the pre-release even the other day. The pre-release, someone who was newer to the game was like, Proliferate does double? Or just one counter, I'm not sure.
We read the add one of each counter, and one of each type of counter is how it actually reads, so...
Yes.
Yeah, but that's where it started, and then it was like, we always wanted to be Commander players because we liked the idea of Commander, so we learned how to play Magic, and then eventually got up to building Commander decks. And then when Arena came out, I played for a little bit. I wanted to try Standard because I wanted to play more kind of competitive formats because that's just what I get drawn to usually. But that Standard was Eldraine Standard, so I didn't...
You came in at a great time.
Yeah, so
nice.
I come in, Oko was Broko, I quit because I didn't want to play against Simic every other game, or every game.
Every game. Yep.
So... Oko, I waited for some bans to happen, and then when Theros came around, I went to pre-release for it, and I did like okay at the pre-release. I went like 2-2. I always go 2-2 at pre-releases. It doesn't matter what pre-release it is. I never really do worse or better.
Okay.
But
yeah, I mean, cool.
Yeah, very average draft player over here, but yeah, at that point, I just started playing a lot of Arena, played a lot of Standard, and then when Historic Brawl launched as a format, I was like all for it. Super happy to play it. Started to get sick of Paradox Engine for a little bit, but still kept to it. And now...
Did you have the like talks about Paradox Engine in Commander, or like... You're just like the card's obnoxious, or...
It had been banned in Commander, like, pretty much right when I started playing. So, when I saw that a card that was banned in Commander was legal, I was like, oh, that's cool, at first. And then I played against it, I'm like, I know why this is banned in Commander now, I get it.
Yeah, okay, right.
So, but yeah, no, I discovered the Historic Brawl hub and the YouTube channel and the Discord through Covert Go Blue, because his content really helped keep me into Magic, and basically, like, watching a lot of his stuff, I feel like maybe made me a better player, because I didn't know what I was doing, and watching... Well, it's like watching other people play who you know are more knowledgeable than you are.
Yeah.
It helps.
Definitely gives you inspiration, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I love, like, people like him and Crokies who... seeing how they play and understanding what's going on in their minds, I would like take inspiration from that in my own decision making when I played. And when he mentioned something about competitive Historic Brawl and he started giving the format a lot of attention on his channel, I was like, I should go check this out, and I'm very glad that I did, because the community for Historic Brawl. The competitive side is really, really awesome. At least so far from everybody that I've interacted with.
So far, asterisk.
Yeah. You never know. You never know.
Yeah, sure.
But, yeah, and now I've had ups and downs in the first season so far, but feeling pretty good. Even if I don't do well, I'm happy to keep playing, but that's how I got here.
Yeah, I mean, you're close to tournament week, so of course, good luck for that.
So are you?
Yeah, so am I, but being the resident Australian means I can't really play in it. Before, when I'm like working sort of late, and from time to time I can get away with staying up till 5 AM playing.
Yeah.
Not that I played well. You know, the coverage of my game is up in the finals. I mean, I played well up to the finals, because when I was playing then, it was like only 1 AM or something. My brain still functions. And then I sit and wait in winner's bracket for like 3 hours, and then it gets to the finals, and I've got brain rot. So it is what it is. But yeah, so for me, I started way back in 2014. I was in like just at the start of high school. So I was like, yeah, I was like 13, 14 when I started playing, and it was a friend who was like, hey, my dad knows this card game, we should play it. And this was also the same time I started D&D, unrelated, but it was sort of the first time like me and my friend group got into like adult games. Yeah, quote unquote. I mean, I don't know if you judge Magic as a proper kids game or anything, but I don't see that many kids playing, so
yeah.
I don't know. But
be,
went to first pre-release. I've got my first card here. I don't know if you can see it, but from Kanzatakia. So that was September, and from then on went to a lot of pre-releases with mates. Didn't really do anything other than pre-releases. Like, I didn't do standard much. I tried it once. I had some really stupid like mono green devotion deck. That was just incredibly bad. And then eventually like Arena comes out, and I'm still in school. I've got like final 2 years left, and I'm like sick. I couldn't play Magic really before because it costs money, and I'm in school, right? So it's like I'm not really paying for cards very much, and people were talking about the monetary system being quite good compared to something like Hearthstone or whatever else, which I was vaguely aware of at the time, and I thought that seems like a good idea, and I started playing on Arena. Made my first grind to Mythic as soon as I could craft like white-black vampires. Finally got to Mythic ramp, and this was like a week before my final exams, so mock exams, so I didn't really study for mock exams, and then after that I was like, okay, I need to study for final exams, and I did that and left Magic for a little bit then. But eventually I saw Historic Brawl, and one of the things like about Commander, because I have played Commander a little bit with groups at Curtain, with some mates as well. I don't like the four-way politics that goes on. Like, if I look at my hand and I go, well, this is an optimal play, I know if I make that optimal play, the three other people at the table are going to go, ha, problem, all target him, all gang up, and I just want to play optimally, right? I don't want to then go, well, actually optimally you play the third best option, so people leave you alone, and then you turtle and Timmy around for like 10 turns, and then win the game with a combo. It's
you gotta sandbag for half the games just so people don't run you over.
That was not really interesting to me. I didn't like that. And my friends weren't the best for that either, because there would always be one guy who was like, I just want to make sure I come second, so whoever I think is winning, I'm gonna like back them up as well. That was Oh yeah, no, that
Yeah.
wasn't great. So
Yeah.
for all of those sorts of reasons, I was like, I'm not a big fan of Commander. But I saw Brawl, and I had played like Commander 1-on-1 with mates. That was a lot more enjoyable, again, because none of the politics are there. We just play the game.
You just win.
Yeah, we like did a bunch of just kitchen tabletop games as well. Because again, we're just playing with whatever cards we have. We can't afford standard or any constructed environment properly. Yeah, so saw Brawl. Saw I'm Not Fine stuff on YouTube when I was first looking at the format. After trying my own deck out, which was just terrible. It was some, like, I can't even remember the name of it, but it was like a Mardu 3/3 that's looked at the top couple cards for Angels, Demons, and Dragons. I don't know if you know the one.
Kalia.
Kalia, yeah, that's it, with two A's, yeah. And I was like, oh man, this seems like a sweet commander. It's like you draw 3 cards and it's themed. It's yeah, it's pretty cool. And
then it's terrible.
Well, you know, I didn't know that at the time. It looks like a pretty neat commander, and I played a couple games and whatever, was enjoying myself, but decided I wanted to look more into the format. Found, as I said, like I'm Not Fine's channel, and got some inspiration there. Eventually, I decided I wanted to join the channel, see what was going on. And then very quickly from there, there's some very helpful people in the community. Just post any deck list, and they'll be like,
yeah,
this card, this card, this card, this card, this card, and you're like,
it's nice. Yeah,
neat. Thank you for that. Yeah, there was some mentions of a Brawl tournament going on, and that was in Brawl Hub, which is now where we all are. And yeah, joined that, and that's how I sort of got into it there. Joined, I don't know, like season 2, I think. I missed season 1, because that's how I heard about it, was from people saying, oh, season 1 was like this, and but yeah, I've definitely enjoyed the time here. I think it's really cool having like a community. It's all community run, right? So this whole everything on YouTube, everything put up, it's all sorts of people who are just going, I have some form of ability to record my stuff. I'll publish my gameplay. If people have time, they'll edit their stuff, provide commentary, whatever else they can do. I had too much spare time recently, so I've done a bunch of extra stuff, but soon no longer. I'm going to be very busy, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I'll still try and put stuff up. But yeah.
Yeah, I missed season 2. I meant to participate in season 3. I joined in season 2, and then I couldn't. I wasn't sure what I wanted to play in season 3. I didn't know if I wanted to bring something of my own creation or just net deck, and then I ran out of time, and I knew I could have joined mid-season if I wanted to, but I'm like, I'll just wait.
Okay.
So it's a season. We're on season 4 now, right? Yeah. So season 4 rolls around, and I see that, oh look, Teferi won the last tournament. Again, I like Teferi.
Again, yes.
I play blue-white control in other formats, so I'm like, this seems like the perfect deck for me. So now I'm piloting that to moderate to medium success. So far,
I'd say pretty successful. Like bearing in mind, everyone has come in here with a competitive. From a competitive standpoint, so like the average win rate on the ladder for any player in the league is going to be about 70% plus.
Yeah.
Some pet decks might suffer a bit because they might not be as strong, but they'll still be well piloted and well built, so they can still hold their own. But yeah, did you end up seeing any of season 3? Like, do you see the the top 8 coverage or week by week videos? Or
I watched the coverage. I think that was a Saturday morning for me, or a Friday. It was sometime in the morning, and I had a closing shift that day, so I was able to watch it before I went to work. The only match that I didn't get to watch was, I think, you versus I think, how do you pronounce
the finals?
Yeah, I didn't get to watch the finals.
Freyalizer.
Yeah,
I think. Could be wrong, but
I don't know how to pronounce that. Freyalizer, if you watch this and we butchered that, we're very sorry. But,
well, is Ectivault on Discord, or the other way around? Yeah, no, Ectivault on Arena, and Freyalizer on Discord, just to make everything as unconfusing as possible. Thanks, mate.
Yeah. But yeah, so now it's like doing okay. You want to go into our matches this season, how we've been doing? Maybe go into our parents for this week. Maybe talk about some highlights from this season so far.
What? Just talk about this season, so season 4 stuff.
Yeah, because like I didn't play season 3, so I mean you can talk about season 3, but I don't have anything to relate to that. So
yeah, well, I mean, I can say I pretty much played one deck in the end, which was Rusko, and got to the finals, which was pretty cool. But yeah, season 4. I will say, for me, season 4 wasn't as like must win as maybe some previous seasons were, because I came into season 4 with the knowledge that I just can't play top 8 unless it's at a really accommodating time for me, which is unlikely. I do have another player who joins me at my Australian time zone from, I think, the Philippines. I might be wrong.
Yeah, boss, right?
But yeah. GMT +8, and well, everything is sort of being done around European time, and you know, a lot of American players in that as well. So it's sort of the other half of the world from me. So yeah, I'd be surprised, but no, I come in and we just, well, from the back end of season 3, we've just had the top 8. We had CGB, who very, very kindly came across and casted it, also advertised it and everything with I'm Not Fine. That was very cool to see. Get some actual proper commentators in, because I was commentating in season 2, so you know, it's not like I've done that before. So it's you know, could be better, but unfortunately we don't have any recording of it because for multiple reasons in multiple places that did not happen.
Yeah.
Oh well. There's actually a 30-second clip on Twitch of season 2. That is the only thing from season 2 on there, and it is me asking to go and do a quick maintenance break. That is it. I have no idea why it's been clipped. It is in the middle of a sentence that finishes in the middle of a sentence, but it's there. So that's cool, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty funny though in hindsight. It is pretty funny.
Yeah, I guess. And then yeah, so with CGB advertising it, bunch of new players coming in. From my perspective, yourself included, as you didn't really come in through like season 3 at all, so you just started like season 4 and played on. And oh, I mean, it was great to see. Just get another like 10. Well, I wouldn't say doubled like our playing pool, but got a lot more numbers in, and I thought, hey, I'm gonna play Kinnan week 1 because it's Hell Q and it's primarily the top deck at the moment. Played
specifically Hell Q. There's reasons.
Well,
we could talk about Kinnan if you want. We could talk about Kinnan because that deck.
Yeah.
It wins very fast and it's fun to play. I would never play that in tournament. I think somebody's playing it with success though. What is his name?
I think Draco Sinus.
Yeah, I think he's
trying it.
Yeah, he played it I think last week and had good success with it, and I I don't remember if he's playing it again this week though.
Well, we did have in season 2, we did have a successful Kinnan player who played Kinnan every single week, got to top 8 and finished like 5th or something, which was pretty decent.
That's pretty good.
But they're really good at the deck because all they have like 1,000+ games just with Kinnan, and they don't play any other commander. So they're a bit of a specialist. And so I thought, well, look, I'm just going to copy paste their deck. I'm going to play it with the knowledge of like how he plays the deck as a very aggressive mulliganing. I'm looking for always having a 1-drop mana dork and then at least another mana dork at 2, if not another one ideally. And then mulligan any hand that doesn't have that. So you'd have hands that were maybe 4 cards starting hands that you could win off just because you have land, 1-drop mana dork, 2-drop mana dork, and then from there you're very close to activating Kinnan already. Which was the idea. It's why
the deck does so well in queue, but from what I've seen in the league, it's like outside of him, it's like I think everybody's kind of ready for it. I think that kind of creature deck, if it runs into like Yawgmoth or it runs into Teferi, it's just gonna like it can't do anything. So,
well, yeah. I mean, even like I ran it and I just went 0-3, and I thought, well, I'm not touching him again. The problem is just any decks with enough removal, which in the league is going to be quite a few of them.
Quite a lot.
They really do punish Kinnan. Especially when, like, if you look in Hell Queue, most of the decks are going to be, like, Control or Blue-Green Ramp a lot of the time, or Aggro, and Kinnan is incredibly well versed against those decks, because it ramps much harder than the other ramp decks out there. It plays really big creatures really quickly for the aggro matchups, and then it can get under control just because everything's coming off an activated ability rather than something you can counter. So, yeah, it's great there, but even then, like in testing, I was at like 50% win rate, so I wasn't even very happy on the ladder. It's one of my worst performing decks, and I ran it anyway and went 0-3, and I'm like, yep, not again. I don't know if you've had any experience playing, or I don't know, playing against or whatever with Kinnan.
Tons of experience against. I think I tried Kinnan when, like, before Historic Brawl was a thing in regular Brawl. I played it.
Yeah,
I played it a couple times and I was like, that's cool, but it's like not my thing. I'm not
sure.
I'm not an aggro player usually. I'm not opposed to trying aggro decks, but it's not the style of gameplay that I prefer. I think you and I are the opposite in that way. I think you prefer aggressive decks. I love playing control. You hate control, and I love squishing aggro. So, it's pretty funny. But I love casting Wrath of God and yelling die while Kinnan and all of its stupid little mana dorks go straight to the graveyard. It's a fun feeling.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Not my thing. Yeah. I think this year was the first year I've properly tried control. I had like the one time I tried like control years and years ago. As I said, when I had this really bad Green Devotion deck for some standard format back in like when Shrine to Nyx was legal. I can't remember the set, like Nykthos or whatever. It was with Born of the Gods.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was saying I was playing some like stupid mono green Devotion deck, just ramp out some stupid green threats, and my best mate, who was more aware of what was competitive at the time, had some Esper control deck that just played like 2 of these like really big blue creatures that were incredibly hard to remove. I can't remember the name of them. But the whole rest of the deck is just typical control. I mean, it's sort of like Hullbreaker horror sort of level of threat. I mean, we've seen the deck before in many iterations. But that matchup would never go in my favor, because it's always like, I'm going to spend like 6 mana on this 8/8, and then they're going to go, okay, in response I'm going to draw like 4 cards, and then spend like 2 mana to kill your thing or counter your thing. And so it was, I was dead 99% of the time, and I never liked control from that point on, because it always beat that deck really bad. And then I turned to aggro, because I'm like, well, every time I was close to winning, it was because I needed to play quick threats. So I turned towards aggro and got very used to trying to draw the stuff like the sweepers out while trying to push enough damage in to threaten the game with some burn spells or some other type of reach. Maybe some haste threats later in the game, something like that. And I think for both of us, that's sort of our style of players translated to the decks we're bringing in Brawl. I mean, you're on Teferi, you're mainly on Teferi.
Yep.
I wouldn't say necessarily that I'm on aggro, but I'm definitely mid-range. So I really do like a Johnny. The first deck that I really got into brewing, I was on I'm Not Fine server, Historic Stronghold, Historic Brawl Stronghold, and Johnny had just come out, and we were looking at the card and theory crafting about the strong ultimate ability, and was thinking, hey, can we win with that thing? And I spent about 2 months on it with another guy, and eventually came on about a list that I thought was pretty good, and that list, right? 3-0'd. So after, I 0-3 with Kinnan, I come back and I'm like, I'm playing something I'm really happy with.
Forget the
I run my Ajani, a 3-0, very very comfortable 3-0 as well. It was just 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. Yep. I think something like that.
That's how my week 1 was. My week 1. I throw into Teferi, and I see him against like Ugin, and I'm like, okay, that's free, and I'm against Golos, so I'm like, okay, as long as I don't get like high rolled against Golos, as long as he doesn't just have the nut every time, I'm fine. Also, tons of Golos experience because I play a lot of Historic Brawl, so I know how to
like similar to you and stuff. Or...
Yeah. And
and
then like I believe his name is Kalitas, or Kalitas, however you pronounce it, but he was playing a Sararak.
Sararak, yeah.
That was the only deck I'm like, okay, if
that's their pet deck.
Yeah.
So
that was like, this deck might actually be able to take the match from me if I'm not like prepared for it. But I understand how the combo works. I got really lucky, and I was able. Both games I drew the removal that I needed to take care of the rocks and the cost reducers, so it was like,
oh wow, yeah
just kind of not a problem. So fairly good matchups for me week 1. Week 2, I got rolled by Adeline. Managed to take a game somehow. But
they just had nothing.
Yeah,
and then you did slightly less or slightly more than nothing.
They didn't draw a Danto Vanguard, and I drew sweepers. It was like that. Adeline, both games that I lost, they got all their stupid little indestructible white creature things down, and those are the games that I lost.
Yeah.
And then game 2, they didn't draw it, so I won. That's kind of.
See, this is where you play Niv, and you have like all the cards that say creatures lose indestructible. Hour of Devastation, all is indestructible, and then 5 damage to everything. Oh, game's so easy.
I had like
it's so easy.
Farewell and by invitation only, which sacrifices.
Yeah, that's true.
And I had like we have swords. We have swords to plowshares. And I didn't run Patriar's Humiliation because I still don't know how I feel. I'm running that this week, but I still don't know how I feel about the card in Teferi because it doesn't ever kill anything.
Yes, yeah, just the text remover.
But the text remover is very, very nice. So I'm like in the air about it still. Although it's not good against other control decks. So.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's well, it depends as well. Like if you're against a control deck that uses a creature as the commander, like say Niv, it's pretty good there.
Yeah.
And then Niv has to worry about.
I wasn't sure if he was going to play Niv this week, so I left it in. I was like, just in case he plays Niv, because I had a feeling we had the same record, so I'm like.
It was close.
Since we had the same record, I was like, I'm probably going to go against Myriad this week. I'll bring this just in case, and then I'm up against Teferi, Freylaser. I have to beat Freylaser this week in a Teferi mirror, so that's gonna be intense.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Winning the last
Make sure that
tournaments.
gets recorded.
Oh, I will. I think I'm gonna ham it up too. I think I'm gonna be a little bit goofy, a little over the top. I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun with it. I'm gonna try very hard.
Okay.
But I'm also gonna have a lot of fun with it because I really want to win that set. Like I really want to win it, even if I don't make top 8. I just want to beat that guy in the mirror.
Yeah, I know he's extremely like upset both with himself and how the games have gone because he's not used to fighting this hard to make top 8. Like he's what, like 13th or something at the moment, or 12th, or
he's just above me. I think I'm 14th, and I think he's 13th. Yeah,
and I'm 12th, so we're all there. I can't remember if I played. I must have played him already. I just don't remember where. But yeah, because I'm not paired with him this week. But Patriar's Humiliation, very interesting card. Definitely, like, usually if you're in white, you're playing it, this like Swords to Plowshares type of ability, especially in the creature decks.
It's so good.
So you play, like I'm used to playing a Johnny. It's just green-white mid-range. I'm gonna have a bunch of super friends. I'm gonna have a bunch of random Dudley creatures, mana dork, stuff like that. And if I have 3 creatures on the board, Humiliation does exactly what I want it to do, kill something. And then there might be spots where I'm going to try and attack with some weaker creatures, get some killed off, so that I can, keep their commander alive when I use Humiliation. That's also pretty good sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good sometimes, right? Sometimes you need it to be that just removal spell. Where
not.
like, if again, like say you're against Niv or something, you're at 6 life, you use it, and then Niv pings you, draws a card, then they've still got a 5/5 on the field, and then you're like, well, I still need removal for that thing, right?
I did that to a questing beast, and I think I posted something in the league chat. I had Patriar's Humiliation to questing beast, and I said questing beast is Richard Garfield intended.
Yes.
No text on it, just a 4/4. It was tapped. I don't think I've ever seen a questing beast tapped while it was attacking before, so I was like, oh, this feels wrong. I'm happy about it.
Yep.
So
the walking textbook has become a 4-mana 4/4.
A 4-mana 4/4.
Perfect. Yeah. Another thing with because usually when we would test nowadays we can go into the Discord and say, hey, I want to test a deck versus some competitive league deck and test it out versus all sorts. And of course in the league, right, you're only going to have, first of all, you're going to be against complete randoms, half of them who will go, oh, I don't like the commander that you're playing, I'm just going to scoop immediately. Some of them are, I'm playing like 2 combos in my deck, and if I don't draw any of them within the 2 free opening hands I get, I'm conceding. And that's the other type of instant conceder. You've also got people who Well, okay, not people, but you'll be restricted to decks because of matchmaking, right?
Yep.
So we're talking about Hellcube before, when you've got, like Kinnan will be against similar blue-green ramp lists, and Kinnan itself, it'll be against
Teferi, and hopefully Rusko soon. Is Rusko Hellcube yet?
Rusko's one below.
It's so strange.
Rusko's interesting as well. So first of all, with any of the new commanders that get released, they aren't sorted by strength of commander because they don't know, or wizards don't know how strong the card actually is going to be performing. So they just spread it across all queues. So we would have seen this before with when Joda was released. Joda was everywhere, and it was playing against every type of deck. A lot of complaints were raised about Joda, but Joda itself, like, it wasn't broken or anything.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Eventually in the queue that it has settled with, so like the types of decks it's going to be matched up against, it's more equal, more even, and much more competitive in that way. Rusko was very similar. So it gets paired against everything. It is, I think we've all agreed on this. Even like in the competitive scene, we think Rusko is much better than Joda. In fact, so much better than Joda that Joda doesn't get played at all.
Not close.
Right?
Yeah, not close.
And we have like 6-7 different people trying Joda. Not Joda. Trying Rusko out. It's not it's not the absolute best deck, but it's definitely really, really good. Which hence, like, we're all sort of pushing for it to be moved up to Hell Q. In reality, the sort of queue just below Hell Q runs a lot of aggressive decks, and Rusko also struggles a little bit against aggression, especially like haste and like blitz style decks. They're really tough. So they'll face a lot more stuff like Rafine. Carrie Zev has faced it, but it still seems to be straddling a couple queues at the moment, because you can still face it with some derpy mid-range list. So I've faced it with the Johnny, which is not. Johnny is not known for being a hyper-competitive deck.
I beat,
right?
I didn't beat, but I played against Rusko several times with a with a Gitrog list that I've been working on that I didn't want to neck deck because I really wanted it to be my own things, and so it's been a really rough journey with the Gitrog deck. But oh man, every time I have to play Rusko, dude, I don't know if I might have beaten Rusko once with Gitrog, but I'm trying to do weird land combo-y, mid-rangey stuff, and Rusko's just playing Displacer Kitten and blinking Rusko 30 times, and I'm like, well, I can't keep up with that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, also just it's just a traditional blue-black control shell, and like that also exists really high on the queue. So Tasha is up there as well. Tasha, I don't think is as strong, but Tasha's still being pushed to one of the top tiers.
Tasha got pushed too high
for that sort of reason.
Yeah, she beat up like the fair creature decks really, really bad, but she gets destroyed by like better decks, like all the Hellq decks. I don't think she stands a chance. I just don't think she beats them. So I would have to agree with you.
Yeah, any creatures that don't need to attack, or just any threats that don't involve creatures attacking, incredibly hard to beat. You do have chances versus control, because if you do ultimate Tasha, you're either milling them out, right, or you're taking like Hullbreaker Horror plus.
My Teferi list, I don't run Hullbreaker Horror, and there's not really any other big creature finisher that I would want in that deck. Maybe Nezahal, but I don't really like Nezahal.
Probably not.
But probably not. It's fun, but. So when Tasha ults against me, I'm like, well, I lose. There goes my deck.
Yeah.
And they have my Dream Trawler.
You need like Tail's End or Stifle at that point.
And I don't run Stifle. Stifle's too narrow.
What's the other one? Is it Disallow?
Disallow is also,
I think.
Disallow stops it, but Disallow's like a spell that I never know if I want to run because it's like I do run other 3-mana counter spells. Like I started running Urtai Scorn, Neutralize, sometimes Sinister Sabotage, and I've seen some people. Oh, what's the one? It's one of the D&D ones. It's counter target spell or draw 2, discard 2.
Oh, you find a hidden lair or something.
Yeah.
Find the lair.
That, like,
something like that.
Then, like, maybe Absorb. Those are kind of the 3-mana counter spells that I'd actually be interested in. Disallow is probably better than most of those. I think it's, like, it's good enough to play, but when it comes to, like, that 3-mana counter spell slot, since we don't have a ton of great 2-mana counters, we have a good chunk, but it just barely doesn't make it, although I might consider running it in the future probably over Urtai Scorn, but I've loved Urtai Scorn in the current build. I play tested it a lot before I submitted the deck list, and I put it over Sinister Sabotage, which some people might think is a wrong thing to do because the selection Sabotage gives you is pretty good, but like the mana reduction you occasionally get on Urtai Scorn when you're playing in Counter Wars or when your opponent's playing any sort of aggro or mid-range and they're multi-spelling and now you're Urtai Scorn, you only held up 2 mana and your Jawari Disruption isn't going to work, but now that they're multi-spelling, you can actually counter something that you want to, which is nice. It's a fun thing. It's a fun spell. You can play tricks like with priority because it won't freeze at first when they play the first one, so there's no stick, right? They cast their first spell, you don't have a counter spell. They're like, cool.
Yeah.
So you didn't counter my mana at the work, you don't have an answer, let me play my 5-drop, and then I'm like, just kidding, Urtai Scorn. You know?
Yeah. Nice.
So it's Counter Wars and those situations where they're priority checking you. It's a fun it's neat. It's probably cuter than it is actually good, but it's been working, so I'm happy to include it so far.
Take some time just to go over the ban list for Historic Brawl. Now, we have all the cards that are already banned in Historic Brawl. We have those banned as well because we want the format to stay as close to the format you'd normally play in the queue. But we do have to make some changes. Those changes are because rebalance cards aren't rebalanced in direct challenges.
For some reason.
So if you're playing with Hullbreaker Horror in your Teferi list, say, and you're playing that on queue, that spell is rebalanced and you can counter that one. However, in the league, because every game we have to do via direct challenge, that loses the rebalancing and then regains the text they removed, which can't be countered. And so for that reason, not that Hullbreaker Horror was one of the cards that is banned, but some other cards that were rebalanced or have been banned in addition to the normal bans we see. A lot of them are cost reduces or cost increases. So Minx Combo costs 5 mana.
Oh my gosh.
But that's only when it's rebalanced. So again, that's 4 mana when it's indirect challenge. And that thing we decided was too much stronger, so that got banned.
Yeah, that's a great call, because Minsk can move at 4 mana. At 5 mana, it's good, it's strong. I would love to play it at 5 mana. At 4 mana, it's nuts. So I think that's...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I... Personally, I did not realize this, so I was playing Helena and Elena, and in my head I'm like, oh, the ban list is just for, like, commander cards and, like, commander stuff or stuff like that. And I had Mexican Burn in the deck, and luckily it didn't come up until the very end in a game where I lost anyway. And my opponent goes, hang on, that card is banned. So that was when I realized, oh wait, I really need to be across like this specific ban list. Because notably, another card that's banned is Teferi Time Raveler,
I was
which
going to bring that up.
yeah. So usually 4 mana. Well, I say usually. I mean the card in paper, of course, is 3 mana, but the rebalanced version, which Wizards have sort of acknowledged as, hey, this is how we're going to make this card fair, is 4 mana, and so when we're playing with that card and we're saying, well, usually it's 4 mana now, that's what's fair and balanced, we can't play with a 3 mana card.
Also, the static is worse. The static is that people just can't cast spells on your turn. The 3 mana version, the original version, reads, opponents can only cast spells at the time they could cast a sorcery. That includes on their own turn. So
wow. Okay.
So before you could, let's say you're in a control mirror, you could play Teferi. If you untap with it, you do whatever, you pass turn, and then when they go to play something, you can try to counter their spell. Now with 4 mana Teferi, they could fight that because they could still cast spells at instant speed on their turn. But with the 3 mana Teferi, they can't respond because they can't play anything at instant speed.
Yeah. Okay. I was not aware of that change either. Wow.
I used to play Team of Reclamation in Standard when that was a deck, and seeing a Teferi Time Raveler plop down was, you just lose because you have to cast the Expansion Explosion on your end step, and you can't do that with Teferi on the field. So it's it's brutal. It's a brutal card.
Well, at the are there any cards like that you've tried on the queue, and if you've had to go, oh, I can't play this in the format, or
no, mostly because they're cards that I don't play anyways. It's not because I wanted to. It's
so you weren't mucking around with 4 mana Teferi.
I've considered 4 mana Teferi. I think I'd have to put him in if he was still 3 mana. There's no way. There's no way I can't run him. Or I don't run him because that's just the insane power level of that card. It's the worst thing is you play him for 3, you bounce a creature back to hand to totally screw over your opponent's tempo, and then you're up a card from that exchange. It's that alone.
Yes.
Is pretty good.
Yeah.
And then in all the mid-range and all the control and all your blue mirrors, they can't do anything. It's so,
there's
4 mana is not quite that brutal, and I think it's pretty fair at 4 mana, especially because they gave it extra toughness, so it's a bit harder to just attack down.
Extra loyalty. Yeah.
But it's plussing to cast, the reason I would want to play it is to plus to maybe cast Wrath at instant speed so that I could then deploy my commander Teferi on the next turn on a clear board, because usually if you Wrath, wait a turn, you Wrath, you pass, they play creatures, you play Teferi, you untap, you pass turn, and then they just attack down Teferi again.
Yeah.
So that's why it's I kind of want to run it because flashing and board wipe is nice, but you usually have to delay your commander by a turn.
Sure.
So it's I'm considering it. I'm not sold on it, but I'm considering. Well, it's banned, so I can't consider it. But
yeah. Well, there you go.
But even in my regular list, I think I ran it before I played in the competitive scene. I think I played it a little bit. But I'm not really sold for or against it either way. I'd have to play it more, but since it's not legal and this is the primary way that I play Magic now, probably just not going to bother.
There's only one other card I think that's on this list that wasn't in the normal bans, and that's Winota. Winota isn't. Yeah, Winota is not one that's been tampered with the mana cost, but Winota would usually whenever you attack with a non-human, for each non-human attacking you get to find a human in your top like 4 or 6, I can't remember, put it onto the battlefield, taps and attacking, and against indestructible until end of turn. The rebalanced version, it only gets 1, so it doesn't matter how many like ginger brutes or whatever you're attacking with, you're only going to get 1 trigger. I forgot where I was going with this. Yep, I can't remember what I was going to say. Fantastic.
I mean, Winota was... I don't know. Here's the weird thing. I don't know if Winota's necessarily too powerful for the format, but it'd easily be top tier if it was legal, as is. I think easily.
Like,
I think it would.
Winota at the moment, it's still a commander that does pretty well in the public queue, but the problem is we have no way of putting it in a competitive, like one-on-one, because then it's too powerful there. Now you could think maybe, okay, but what happens if we decline all the additional triggers? So we make sure like fair play happens and we're declining every single one apart from the first, so it's as if it's in public queue. Unfortunately there are 2 issues. The first of all is what happens if the pilot makes a mistake and accidentally resolves 2.
Yeah.
Usually, so we had a clause like this when Niambi Combo was the thing, and I'll get to that in a second. But the second problem is even if everything goes right and you resolve 1 per turn, because you're still triggering the card and you're digging so many cards deep, the cards that you cycle through in your deck, very quickly, as the Winota player, you're going to have an understanding of what your deck looks like, which normally you wouldn't be able to do, just because you've cycled through that many iterations of top 4 cards of your deck, put them on the bottom, top 4, put them on the bottom. You know what your deck looks like, which is also not representative of normal gameplay.
Information.
So, yes. Now the clause, which was so Niambi Combo. This was a very, very fun deck. Not on the other side of the battlefield, which is why it got changed.
I've never heard of this deck. I need you to explain this to me.
Yes, so it is. Niambi is a 3/2 or a 2/2. It's irrelevant. I think it's a 2/2. But it has flash. It's in white blue. When it enters the battlefield, you may return target creature from the graveyard that was put there this turn from the battlefield to the battlefield, and it gains whenever this creature is the target of any spell, you draw a card. And what would happen is, because Niambi is legendary, if you play it and you play a clone spell for 3 mana, the clone would enter the battlefield, the trigger would happen, but in response you would have to resolve the legend rule. So then you would lose the real, I can't remember which one, I think you lose the clone. Yeah, you lose the clone, that goes to the graveyard. Then the cloned Niambi trigger happens, sees that a clone has entered the graveyard this turn, and then can bring it back to the battlefield.
And then it brings
and
back,
then it gains,
and then you resolve it.
Yes, it comes back, it copies as Niambi, you get another trigger of Niambi, legend rule applies, goes to the graveyard, then the trigger resolves, finds the clone, brings it back. That is the infinite loop. This matters because also, every time you bring the clone back, it gains the text, whenever this card is the target of a spell, draw 1 card. That stacks.
Oh,
so
right, because
you would put that number up to like 25, or I think 27 was the limit, before Arena said, hey, you're taking too many actions that are just not taking the game anywhere, so this will like be a draw very soon unless you do something else. You can break the this loop by losing Niambi to the command zone and then keeping the clone on the battlefield. And then if your opponent points removal at it, then you just draw 25 cards, and I mean, you drew 25 cards? Like, that's pretty damn good.
So try me. I
And
dare you to
if they
kill
don't
it.
do that,
I dare
yeah,
you.
if they don't do that, then you also have a bunch of blink spells. So if you just target your own thing, blinks, come back, you can start the loop again, get it up to 50 or something, draw your whole deck and win with like Thassa's Oracle or something that's that wins when you have no deck left.
Yeah, like Jace. I think because Labman I don't think is on Arena yet, so I think you wait. Is Labman on Arena?
Well, there's Thassa's Oracle, which is a 2-mana 1/3.
Yeah,
that's
commander player, well aware. 2-mana 1/3. Yeah, it enters, and if your library is basically smaller than its devotion, you win. Is how the card reads. You technically also get
pretty much.
You technically also get card selection if you're playing it fairly.
Yeah.
No one's doing that.
And yeah, there's the 4-mana Jace as well. That says if you draw from an empty library, you win the game.
Yeah.
But you only need one of these win conditions because you're in blue-white, so you have enough counter magic to fight through whatever your opponent has because you've drawn your whole deck. You have all the best answers in blue. You're going to have, at bare minimum, you're going to have a counter spell for 0 mana being Pact of Negation. So you should be winning any fight at the very end. Not to say you could also play it patiently and just play a game where you have a massive hand. There are plenty of cards that say you don't have a maximum hand size, which you can also play and then just hold a massive grip. The problem with this combo, and the problem with the deck and the playing experience, was the combo itself took 2.5 minutes to do, and that was the fastest you could perform the combo.
Oh no.
I got very practiced at doing the combo as fast as I could, and it still took me 2.5 minutes, and I know that because I have recorded my gameplay playing with Niambi. Boy, that thing takes forever to get.
Oh, I bet.
And on the opponent's side of the board, if they have an answer and they think the game's not over when they get the combo going, they have to wait 2.5 minutes of, the Niambi blinking the clone back and forth for 2 minutes. It's just very frustrating to play against.
So, is the point of this, is that why Niambi is Niambi on the ban list?
Niambi is not on the ban list. What happened was, because it's a digital-only card, because it gave a new line of text that was permanent, they just rebalanced it. And they said, okay, if when it enters the battlefield this turn, if this was cast, do the effect.
Ah, okay. They did the, what they did to... it's the 4-mana. It's not Ranger Captain. It's it enters. You look at how many you grab. You seek two.
Like 2/3/3.
Yeah, 3-mana cards.
Things.
Yeah, and then you put one into play, and they had to change it to. I don't remember the name of it, but they changed it.
Oh boy, yeah, neither.
Yeah, they changed it to if you cast it, because you could play it, get something like Glasspool Mimic, clone it, get it again, maybe clone it again. And then you end the loop with like Skyclave Apparition, and then you like you're winning.
Attack him with a massive board.
Yeah, you win like
something
2 turns
like
from there.
that.
Yeah, so they did a similar change to that, which was a good change because
I mean that was very viable in Constructed.
in Historic it was really good. It was really good for the nerf. So it was very good in Alchemy too. I think they changed it for Alchemy.
Right, yeah. I only ever played against that thing, and yeah, that was unfun. Not that it took like forever to do, but more just the fact that it was so hard to stop. It's like I'm playing some fair aggro list, and then they're going, well, now I have a board of 3/3s. Yeah. And then you're like,
I had that as the only white card in a Merfolk deck that I played in Historic for a little bit. It was just this random guy, because it worked so well, because that deck, I don't know if it's even still a deck that's viable in Historic, but the version that I ran Glasspool Mimics anyways, and I'm like, I could splash white. I'm pretty much just, I could like, it started as Simic, and then I went to mostly mono blue, and then I think Simic is the right thing because there's a digital card that gives you Tropical Island, so you should just play Simic because it's very, very good. But it was like this. It was like a Bant deck. It was Bant Merfolk, but there was only one white card, and it was that card because that's how good that card was. And that deck ran Coco, so I was willing to run a 4-drop even with Coco in the deck. So.
Yep, strong card, got rebalanced. I mean, unsurprising. It definitely speaks to like the design surrounding the digital cards. It's like, well, hey, we can change the card at any point. So typically we're finding a lot of these are getting nerfed, right? Some of them got buffed, but those would be from like Baldur's Gate, where they're already pulling cards from an established set, and then they're going, well, this whole set's now digital only, so we can make some changes there. But yeah, especially like most of the digital only cards are just getting nerfed a lot of the time, which has led to a lot of outrage as well. I think digital only cards, even the concept, has been a very hot topic within the community.
It has been. And
I don't know your first like, when was the first time you were noticing digital only cards? What do you think?
I remember when Alchemy came out, I was in support of it at first because I was playing tons and tons of Standard, and at the time that I think Alchemy came out, the format was, it was a 2-deck format. It was kind of 3, but mostly only 2. It was Blue-Red Turns, which was a combo control deck that cast Allrun's Epiphany and copied it a million times and took like 4 turns in a row and then beat you down with a bunch of 1/1 flying birds. Very, very, very good deck. Warped the entire format around it for a time.
Yeah.
And then there was the deck that tried to beat it, which was Mono White. White aggro with like Thalia and some other stuff, Skyclave, Brutal Cathara, those kind of cards. And then there was occasionally mono green. There was a mono green Stompy deck. It beat up a little bit better on blue-red than mono white did. The issue is that it really, really folded to mono white because you could put out all your stupid little 4/4 trample trolls and your curve topping 4 and 5 mana cards, and then your opponent plays a Brutal Cathar and they've totally blown you out. So yeah, it didn't do good against mono white. So it was mostly mono white and blue red turns. So
that was standard at the time, right?
Yeah, that was standard. So when Alchemy came out right around there, I'm like, this is a perfect time for Alchemy, right? We have a very unhealthy Standard.
A bit stale, yeah.
And I was in support, and I'm still in support of digital. I like digital cards as an idea. I'm like, okay, rebalance cards to make them not broken. Or make bad cards good cards, you know. It seems like, you know, same concepts get done in other games. Why couldn't it happen to Magic?
Sure.
So, the first wave was great. There were some, I think, maybe some oversights. Like we talked about the 4-mana creature that they had to change. Was really the only one that was kind of a problem that I remember. Most of them were really fun. Key to the Archive was super fun. Cards like Seek New Knowledge, although I think that came out later, but that card's great. And it was mostly stuff that was like mostly pretty balanced, and if they were overtuned, they could change it. So I'm like, this is great. Even if they accidentally put out something stupid, they'll change it.
Sure.
And my opinion from there hasn't really changed. I haven't played with a ton of those cards. Because they usually just... I usually either played Standard or I played Explorer or Pioneer. So I just never ran into them. I don't have a ton of experience with them. So conceptually, I'm super okay with it. But there are some like... there was like a 3-mana enchantment or something that's like whenever you played a creature, seek another creature onto the battlefield.
Yep. It's Cabaretti something. Revels.
And there were some other cards where I don't even think they ever got nerfed that I looked at those and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stay away from those maybe Alchemy's not for me, but
sure.
I liked Alchemy as a concept. It's just some of the cards that maybe go like, maybe I'll
overpushed or something.
Yeah, but overall, I like it. It doesn't bother me. I actually think it's a cool way to make Arena unique to other constructed formats. I think it's a great way to do it. My personal opinion is like a lot of people are kind of pushed away or kind of scared of the digital only stuff. It's, because it's new and it is a bit weird because Magic's a card game and all the cards are printed in paper and I can play my paper deck on Arena and vice versa. It's like, yeah, but try it because some of them are really fun. It's fun. I like them. My verdict is I think overall they're mostly pretty fun. So they get the green light from me.
Yeah. I will say there is still risk. Like if you go into Alchemy and you find a really cool deck and you're like, wow, this seems really strong, and then suddenly they go or Wizards say, hey, this card is pretty powerful, we need to make it not pretty powerful, and then the 20 wildcards you put into the deck that you think is really cool that you found online, suddenly it doesn't make sense because the core card has been changed and it now suddenly the whole deck doesn't make any sense. Right? Yeah. So for example, if you've made that that white card you're talking about and you have all the clones that you might have crafted and you might have the Tuk Fort for haste at CMC3, maybe that was your finisher, something like that, and you're not mainly playing mono or blue white Azorius, whatever, and so you just spent a whole bunch of wild cards on the mana base, on the card itself, on some of the clones, some of the other supporting pieces, and then suddenly the deck's not viable anymore. It's like, well, hang on, where's my compensation for this? This is an unforeseen change to the format where I've now invested a lot of both time and currency into these cards, and they're just taken away from me, and there's nothing I could do about it. That's where I've seen personally a lot of outrage come from. Mm-hmm. I think people are right to be upset, and for a time Wizards were giving wild cards back. So if for that white card you would have got 4 rare wild cards that you could craft into anything else. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that was still...
I don't think they do that anymore. No, yeah. I don't think they do that anymore.
I think they got rid of that.
I don't remember that being a thing. I could be wrong on that, but to me it's my argument against that is if, let's say, you craft, you have 40 wild cards. You blow them all in a deck that you think is going to be super awesome. It's the perfect kind of deck that you want to play, and it's really well suited for the format at the moment. And then a key card gets banned. Not rebalanced, not changed, not buffed, not nerfed. It gets banned. You get a wild card, maybe 4 wild cards back. That doesn't account for the other 36 wild cards that I spent to get that deck in the first place. The example, Wilderness Reclamation, when you ban Wilderness Reclamation, the Wilderness Reclamation deck suddenly literally cannot exist. So the wild cards you spend on the land base, because there's a lot of rare lands. Oh,
especially 3 color.
Yeah, so you have the Triumphs that you can't use anymore. The Triumphs were in at that point. You spent all the shock lands at the time. It's you could still use those cards in other decks, especially lands, but
not for the current standard environment.
Yeah, and now I can't play that deck anymore because you ban the key card. If you nerf it, I'm like, well, I could still make this deck function. I would almost think
where else? Where else do you see Expansion Explosion as well, right?
Yeah, so. It doesn't see any play in this format, in our format, so I've never seen anybody play it at the very least.
No, it's just gone.
I've seen occasional Niv Mizzet Perun lists on just the regular queue, but I think I've seen it twice. in
be
like 300 games.
It would definitely be with Vadrik, so any of the cost reducing Izzet decks would have it, but
yeah, I think that's where I saw it.
It's very narrow. So
yeah. So to me, it's like I'd rather you tell me that my card is going to work slightly less consistent than tell me, hey, you can't play this card at all, so now the deck you built around it is also totally dead.
It's like I suppose it's just like the same thing. I mean, like if you're at the receiving end, of course, you're not gonna be very happy. So your perception of whatever is not going to be very high. This is be reflected in comments. Just any comments where someone feels like they've been wronged online, where in reality it might be very slight. They're emotional, right? They're not very happy, so it's always going to be a bit pushed. Also some people are not very happy with conjuring cards, where they're going, hey, my opponent is in, like, I don't know, like mono blue, and they play Key to the Archive and they found Wrath of God.
Yeah!
That's not fair.
Yeah!
That's not... You know, I'm not playing around Wrath of God from a mono blue deck. Like, hello? Wizards, this is a dumb idea, right?
Yeah, but it's fun because sometimes you also get to play Demonic Tutor. It's like, oh, I could say, it's like the Oracle of the Alpha. Like, I could tell my friends, like, yeah, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm legally casting Black Lotus and Time Warp in my format. What are y'all doing, you know? It's like, it's, sure, it's a bit, it is a bit odd. And it does kind of defeat the purpose, especially in our format of color identity. I've always kind of wanted to maybe bring that up with people. It's like, it's not a broken card. I don't even think it sees any amount of play. I've never seen a single list run it that I've looked through. And for
which card?
For Key to the Archive.
Right, yeah.
I've never seen anybody in the league run it, but like, it is a bit strange that it just straight up breaks color identity. Just doesn't matter. High mono white, here's Demonic Tutor. You know?
Yeah. It's an interesting card. Then you've also got like Tome of the Infinites, another one, where again they'll be in like mono blue, and you're like, source to Plowshares.
I hate
Man.
I love that card and I hate that card. I love using it because sometimes when it, you know, getting extra swords to Plowshares and getting somebody with the Force Spike feels pretty good. Other than that, it's I think that all the early Paradox Engine decks used it to go infinite, so you'd always have a spell to cast. I don't know if Rusko runs Tome.
No. Well, depends. Every single version of Rusko that's been put into the league tournament has not run Tome. I feel like we have, like, there are reasons for this, why it's not run, but you'll definitely see it in public queue, because the public perception of Tome is that it's very, very good, when in reality it sort of isn't.
You spend a lot of mana to do a lot of nothing. Usually. Yeah,
especially like if it's you got to draft a card from that selection, then you're going to be hitting like the really valuable spells a lot more. Like Ponder's going to be good, Source the Plowshares is going to be good. Fog, if you're in that situation, is going to be good. And that's sort of it. There are a lot of dead cards that you'll just have sitting in your hand going, yeah, this was 3 turns of investment plus 3 mana for a mana rock, and I've got a lot of cards that do absolutely nothing in my hand. There's also variance in like, it's a very high variance card as well, so in any competitive format, variance is bad. We'll see the same stuff in like Pokemon, where you'd want your higher damaging move that's 80% of the time going to hit. You want that a little bit less if you have like a medium sort of power move, but it always hits. You always want that almost always want that in a competitive setting. I'm not a Pokemon expert, but that's sort of my understanding there. But just to make the point, like, variance is generally not worth the risk, and very high variance, you would rather not have it all. So that's why I think we don't see any Tome of the Infinite in the league. I mean, if you have a different view on it, then okay, sure, maybe bring it. Prove us wrong. Come knocking on our doorstep and beat us. But
my point of view is fun card, but I've had it fail me many times. So it's not consistent. I'm with you. It's all about like consistency and making sure your deck is always doing what you need it to do. And Tome being a mana investment that can be very unreliable at times, it's just not it. It's just not it. It's not. It doesn't have the sauce. It sometimes has the sauce, but it usually doesn't have the sauce.
Yeah. I've never played it with Paradox Engine.
It's gross.
It's kind of interesting, but yeah, it's like you need to tutor 2 cards where, like, for that to work. Whereas if you're just running like Paradox Engine, you don't need like that card with it. Then that's just better, right? Because you just need to tutor for one card.
You just need to get Paradox Engine to trigger. I think Emery lists can probably get away with running Tome because it's an artifact. So Emery can cheat it out, can cast it from the graveyard if it gets removed, or just cast it with Emery's ability. So
I'm still not even sure that it gets run in the Emery list.
The only thing that still sucks about the Tome in Paradox Engine is if you get a lot of Force Spikes, it doesn't do anything because you have to have spells to counter.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Still a loose condition. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, but you're like, if you run Swords to Plowshares, you have to have a target, and you're not gonna Swords your Emery because that's how your combo works. The red one is a pump spell, so that one works. Fog works, so 2 of them work. Force Spike doesn't. Swords doesn't, and Ponder works. So you're 3 for 5.
So I thought there were 10 spells. There's Double Strike as well.
Yeah, I don't remember the spells.
Yeah, there's
a
Giant
white one
Breath as well.
Yeah, I think there's.
Destroy and enchantment +1/+1 or gain 4 life.
Light of Hope.
Yeah, I think so. Can't remember the rest. Dark Ritual maybe.
Oh yes, Dark Ritual's 1.
Yeah.
That's probably the best pull. That's not like Swords.
Yeah, that's not like Swords. Swords is just that good.
Yeah.
I think also public opinion. Well, not public opinion, but the opinion in our Discord is that Swords to Plowshares is currently the best card in the format. Period.
Oh, really?
And if you're playing white and you're not playing Swords to Plowshares,
what are you doing?
You better not have that card crafted and not in your deck, right? Like, what are you doing?
Coming from Commander, when I found out that Swords to Plowshares was legal, I was like, what are you guys on? Like, what, you guys don't allow, like, or at least in no, because it's not legal in Historic, but, like, I lost what I was gonna say. It's gone. Whatever I had is gone. Basically, I'm like, this is nuts. You guys have, like, Lightning Bolt and Swords. And I'm like, wow, I'm very happy that these are here. I love cheap removal spells. This is awesome. Thank you. Do people run Lightning Bolt?
In Commander?
In the league.
Absolutely, yes.
This is like you have to, right? Because people
you
don't
look
really
at my
run Commander anymore.
You can look at my Chandra list. It should have it as well.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's the best burn spell. You're an aggro deck.
Mono red aggro, right? Yeah. Like, it's in. Alright.
Okay, so that was episode 1 of our yet-to-be-named podcast on Historic Brawl. You can find a link to the description...
Well, you can find links in the description down below, hopefully. to our Discord.
For Historic Brawl. Come by, hang out, cool community. We're always accepting new people. Come and play, compete. It's great. It's a lot of fun. And very glad to have this group of people to play with. So
yeah, been fun to talk about as well. As well, like this whole thing wouldn't be possible without the community. I mean, we are part of the community, just randomly playing a game and saying, hey, let's do this, right? So it's very cool. So yeah, hope to see you in here soon.
Alright, I'll see you later.